Welcome to the Elevate podcast. This series focuses on elevating and inspiring women and girls into or to remain in the tech sector from the classroom to the boardroom. I'm Kelly Kwarteng, founder and CEO of Helzac and host of the show.
Welcome back to another episode of the Elevate Women in Tech podcast. Today we have the truly inspiring guest with us, Yamilee Toussaint, the founder and CEO of STEM from Dance. Yamilee's journey is a testament to the power of combining passions and breaking down barriers. After studying mechanical engineering and being an avid dancer for over 25 years, she switched gears to teach high school algebra in an undeserved community in Brooklyn through Teach for America. She started STEM from Dance in 2012 with the hope that a program that infuses dance in STEM would help increase the number of underrepresented minority girls across the nation who pursue a future in STEM. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree from MIT and a Master's of Science in Teaching from Pace University. She is also the recipient of Teach for America's Social Innovation Award, Anita B. Org's Educational Innovation Award, Brooklyn Magazine's 50 Most Fascinating People, and a AAAS If Then ambassador. So Yamilee, it's brilliant to have you on today. What an introduction. I'm truly honoured to have you here. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kelly. Excited to be here.
Perfect. Well, if it's okay with you, let's get started and let's hear a little bit more about STEM from Dance. It would be great to share with our listeners the story behind STEM from Dance, and I suppose what motivated you back at the start of the journey to start this remarkable initiative.
Sure. My motivation comes from a few places. I'd say that it started with being in an engineering class at MIT and realizing that I am an anomaly. There were just a handful of women of color in my classes, and it had an impact on my ability to thrive and feel like I belonged in the room. And I also found that it was the time that I spent with my peers dancing, which I've been dancing my whole life. Like when I would be in dance rehearsal at the end of the day, that's where I kind of got built up. I got to, build my confidence, build that sense of my power and my potential and how much I did belong there. And this wasn't something that I realized at the moment. It was just something that I could see in hindsight that dance did play a big role in providing me with the community and the encouragement that I needed to thrive in such an academically rigorous environment. And also, I also motivated by my experience as a teacher. I decided to teach high school algebra after college, really because I wanted to learn more about what young people were experiencing that led them to choose not to do something like major in engineering, especially students of color. And I found how much the students that I taught just had this mindset towards math that was keeping them from excelling. Mindsets that say things like, math is just not for me. I don't do well in math. Math is just a subject I need to take an exam I need to pass so that I can graduate from high school. And I wanted to change that because I experienced math as something that's puzzling in a fun and interesting way. And so I was just really motivated by changing that narrative and really busting that myth that there's only certain people who can do well in math. So I could also, speak about my upbringing and how my father was a mechanical engineer, and he really helped me to see that I could be one too. So it's a combination of all these experiences that led me to want to start STEM from Dance. And really my vision, when I created the organization over a decade ago, was to create an experience that made STEM feel thrilling, interesting, creative, expressive. And what we have are programs that allow specifically girls of color to be able to do things like make performances with costumes that light up, our animations that are projected on the screen behind them, and they get to make not just the dance, they're making the technology. They're learning about circuitry, electrical engineering, computer programming. They're learning how to use these technologies that are relevant, increasingly important in our society, through the lens of dance, and just being able to experience that in a more joyful way. So that's in a nutshell how I sort of landed where I am now.
I mean, there's so much in that you talk about, and I think when I speak to women in tech, that sense of belonging is something that comes out so much, particularly in that early education space. So the fact that you had the foresight and that vision to see that actually the underrepresented community that you've seen and that you've experienced from teaching the algebra, changing that mindset that they do belong, and that actually having an opportunity to have a STEM education, a STEM career is interesting, it is inspiring. And I think what you're doing, incorporating dance into the tech side of things, I think is amazing. And obviously I came across STEM from dance at the UN delegate meetings that I was part of, and I hadn't seen anything like it, and I thought I have to connect with you to find out more. So here we are today, finding out more and sharing this vision with the audience as well. I think obviously it's evident that from your personal journey, for your sense of helping you feel like you belong in when you was at university doing your mechanical engineering degree, and obviously the organisation that you've set up played that the dance side of things played like a pivotal role in the birth of STEM from dance. And it is well documented, and it's an ongoing issue that gender disparity in tech, particularly within STEM careers of women, if we look at just women, is so underrepresented. So if you think about the kind of women in tech space, 27% of women are in tech. That number drops to, I think it's around about 5%. So there's a huge piece of work that needs to be done, not just inspiring women, but inspiring women of colour, from Black, Indigenous, Hispanic and Latina women to really feel like they belong. And it's great to see that obviously what you're doing is to help and inspire future generations. But why do you think that there's so few women in these fields? And how can we encourage more girls to embrace STEM? Obviously the STEM from dance, but what else do you think can be done outside of just kind of initiatives like what you're creating?
What is increasingly apparent is how negative connotations with STEM start at a young age. There's a study that shows that it's as young as 8 years old that many girls start to lose confidence in math. So what we're up against is this narrative that girls have in their minds that they can't do well in math. And that is what we have to change as a society, because they get these messages from, like, they form that narrative from like a host of messages. It can be in their household. Maybe they have a family member who thinks that boys are better in math than girls. Maybe it's at their school where their teacher is recommending the boys over the girls for things that are STEM-like. Maybe it's in the TV, in the movies that they see, where the scientist is a white man. There's all these messages that come through, like whether explicitly or implicitly, that I think we all have a role in changing, because most of us have some kind of influence on young people or somebody who knows young people. And the more that we reverse that narrative and those messages, I think the more that we're going to see girls be more encouraged to step into these fields.
And I can't agree with you more. I think I've spoken to a couple of women now on early education, and that impact that education, schooling, society, influences around them have, be it consciously or that unconscious side of things, just that not realizing plays such an important part. And I think some of the points that you mentioned there, getting girls as young as 8 years old to feel confident in science and math subjects is an absolute game changer, to realize that they can belong, and it's fantastic. And showing them the paths that women have already trodden and really elevating that up to show that there's more opportunity out there for them. So yeah, I can't agree more there with you. Would you be able to share with us kind of your career defining moment that solidified your commitment to this cause? Because other people might just think, oh, it's a problem, but it's not my problem. So do you know what? I'm just going to carry on doing what I'm doing. So yeah, what was it that really kind of made you think, I've got to do this?
I will describe one moment. And I've also found that, because I've been doing this work for over a decade, I have needed like multiple moments to be able to stick with the hard work that it requires to bring about this kind of change. I'd say a pivotal moment for me was, there's so many to choose from, but I'd say when, so I had this idea of somehow bringing dance and STEM together. That's all that I pretty much knew. I just knew that I thought that there would be some potential of bringing these worlds together to impact girls. I didn't know how. And so the first thing I tried was to do some math tutoring and dancing. But it was too disjointed. It wasn't integrated. And then I tried something else, and that too didn't quite work. And then I tried something else, and it didn't quite work. And it's hard to have this idea that I'm really passionate about, an idea that I'm trying to get other people to care about too. And it's just not panning out how I expected. I was talking to a friend who is also in engineering, and she gave me this idea to have the girls program animations that could be projected on the stage while they dance. And that was just a light bulb moment for me, because I can see how the hook would be present for the girls. They had a reason to learn how to code because they wanted to make this more interesting dance performance. And then the audience can also understand what the interaction between dance and STEM too, because they're seeing dance and they're seeing something technical, even if they don't know how it was made. And I can start to see how it could make sense for the girls and for the broader community. And that was a pivotal moment for the organization, because it really just started to come together. Had I not reached that moment, I don't know if we would be having this conversation, right now. So, and like I said, I think there have been many moments that I had to experience to be reminded, okay, this is why I do this work. This is the impact that it's having, and this is why I should keep going.
I'm sure many of the girls that you have been involved with, and their families and their parents and the schools and everything else that you're in, they must be really proud of that moment that happened to ensure that where we are today 10 years on still exists, because I think it's such a genius way of bringing the two fields together. If we speak about impact and we look at STEM from dance, obviously you're looking at specifically at girls within STEM and looking at bridging the gender gap. What changes do you hope to see that STEM from dance will bring to the girls that you're supporting, the locations that you're supporting? What do you think? What are the changes that you really hope to see?
I think at a baseline, we're trying to change that narrative so that they do believe that they can do it. Whether or not they choose to is another type of impact, but just them believing that they can is what is the baseline for us. And then we do want to see that not only do they believe they can, but that they do reach that potential, because we know the impact it can have in their lives to have that STEM training, that STEM job. I know the impact it's had on my life So we do want to see that, many of them do go on to have that feature in STEM. I think also what I, envision is that these girls and women go on to be part of that narrative shifting. That when they have children, when they have young people in their lives, that they can pass that message to say girls and women can do things in STEM. It's not something that boys are better positioned to do. And I think the more people that exist in society who understand that and are present spreading that message, that helps the next generation that comes along. So maybe lastly, I'd say that, when it comes to our girls and women who go on to the STEM field, we want to see them have an impact, not just have any old STEM job, but to be decision makers, to be influential, to be in the room where like technologies and innovations that impact the world are being created. Because I believe their voice is needed in these spaces. So I do see that as well.
What you're saying there, the fact that, to change that narrative and belief, that's where it all starts, isn't it? And like you said, the more girls that you can have come through, it's that whole old saying of you can't be what you can't see. Well, actually, you're building these girls up, you're giving them that confidence, you're giving them that belief, and they are becoming those decision makers in that room that make change, and not only making change on the tech and the engineering products that they're working on, they're actually making change for those coming behind them to look up and say, I want to be like you, and do more. So yeah, I love that, and I love that. That's kind of where you think that change can come. In terms of a particular girl or examples of girls that have been through the program over the last 10 years, could you share any particular success stories or highlights from the program where you've seen someone maybe go through that process? So they've changed their own belief, their own narrative, and they're now putting in, they're in a position of either influencer or decision maker within a STEM career.
Would highlight one of our students. She attended our summer program. After that, she interned with the team, and then went on to study math at Bates College. And she graduated in the spring that just passed. And then within a month, she started her first job, like adult job at a architecture firm as a data scientist.
Brilliant.
And so she's, embarking on her career. I think it's just amazing to see someone who, just like came in with that just very early interest in like almost not even interest, but like that curiosity about STEM, and how being able to experience the program, be in an atmosphere that encourages that curiosity, allowed her to see, oh wow, like I do like this and I want to do more of it. And now she's an adult, like getting her own place and being able to live in another city. And when I just imagine her being in that part of her life and being able to start this career, it just makes me so happy to see that she's been able to, really experience the joy and the benefit that comes from persisting through, these barriers that were stacked up against her. And so I just can't wait to see the impact that she has in her job and her company, and even just the unique perspective that she's going to bring. She's going to think about things different than her peers are because she has that dance background, because of, who she is and where she's come from. And I just think it's so impactful to see that somebody like her is in that position.
What a fantastic story. And I think it just shows the positive impact that the program's having. And I'm sure there's many other girls that we could have shared. And I think it's amazing. You should be be really proud of that as well in terms of what the program is developing. I think with that being said, there's obviously a huge need for more initiatives like STEM from Dance, or the ability to help grow STEM from Dance on like a 10x scale as quickly as possible, because it's making that positive impact that's definitely needed within the industry. So for any of our listeners that are in positions of influence, what more can employers or companies do to support and encourage more women and girls to pursue tech careers from your perspective?
What I'd say first is that for organizations doing this work, serving girls and women, oftentimes the number one need is financial investments into the mission. Recently I learned that out of all philanthropic giving, only 2% goes to causes that support girls and women. And it's 0.02% that support organizations that serve girls and women of color. And that is an uphill mountain that, these organizations have to face is really being able to attract the resources that are needed to be able to do the work. And so I just encourage, those with influence, especially those who have access to dollars, to really think about putting those dollars towards these causes, because that's what fuels our mission. For us, we have, a goal to be a $10 million organization, raising that annually. And because that is the need, because we also have a goal to reach 1 million girls by 2032. To be able to achieve such an ambitious goal, we just need that fuel. So I just invite companies to really think about those investments, because it's often girls and women who aren't receiving that. I think secondly, what I get excited about is when those partnerships are really mutually beneficial, that we can find very meaningful ways to partner with companies, with organizations, where we can come alongside one another. That it's not just receiving a check, but it's really making an impact together. And so something I like to do is just have conversations where we can dream about ways that a collaboration can really make a dent in this issue you mentioned earlier, that it's just 5% of women of color in the STEM field. So we just need a lot of muscle to change that number. So yeah, just really meaningful partnerships, I think is something that we're looking for. Like I mentioned, we're scaling across the United States and as well internationally too. And we do that by training educators, people in a local community with our approach. So we give them what they need so that they could teach it locally without our team having to physically be there. And so we just look for partners who can help us identify those local communities and who we can work with. I just love a really great, strong partnership.
I think that's so right. It is about companies, and it is often the women that get left behind when it comes to these initiatives. And like we mentioned, the women of colour even more so. And I think if companies are really about their corporate, there's a lot of corporate responsibility statements that are out there in the world, and there's a lot of companies that want to do good. I think they've got the right intentions, but potentially looking at their initiatives more as a checkbox scenario. It's on the website, we've got it written down somewhere, so therefore we're doing our bit. And it's no, it's more than that. You've got it written down, but what are you doing? What are you doing internally in your organization? But actually, what can you do, particularly some of the larger corporates, to then support your community that you live in? And then what initiatives are locally? If you don't know where to start, how could someone partner with a STEM from Dance, for example, to really then come together, collaborate and make that impact? And I think these are some of the ways, being a bit more creative for organizations in their internal kind of focus, look at options and to look at the opportunities that are around them. And obviously you guys have a blueprint. It's working, it's inspiring, it's bringing those women through. Like you mentioned, someone that started as a summer intern, as a summer program for you, going through to her first job as a data scientist. Impact can be made, but you need that muscle, the dollars behind you to make that happen, and to obviously achieve that mission of 1 million girls by 2032. If there was any companies that are listening in today, people that obviously can have that privilege of being able to make an impact, how could a company get involved? How can they connect with you? What is it that they can do? What are the different options of contribution that they can give? So you mentioned about partnerships. Give us a bit of an overview of how people can get involved, how they contact you, what options there are. And I suppose it's a little bit of a sell opportunity from STEM from Dance for people to get involved.
Sure. I mean, I would love to have conversations. I also have a team of people who love to have those conversations. So you can either go to our website, fill out that contact us form, and that message will get to me, or just reach out to me directly. It's my first name, Yamilee, at stemfromdance.org, and would be happy to have a conversation and see where that takes us.
I suppose on the flip side of that, obviously there's companies that we want to get involved with you and to support the initiative, but we do have a lot of girls that listen in. We have a global reach. We have most of our viewerships are from the UK and the US. So if there's any girls listening in, if there's anybody listening in and think, wow, this could be a good initiative for my daughter to get involved with, how can people find out about girls being able to get involved? What cities that you're kind of set up in, what states you're in? Yeah, how could the girls get involved with you as well?
Yes. Also on our website, it's stemfromdance.org. That's where we post about programs, what cities we're in. We also have a newsletter that you can sign up so you get that information right in your inbox. So I would recommend any girls, family members, anyone to just go to the website, because that's really the best source of information and really the latest updates for the organization.
Perfect. No worries. And what we'll do as well is make sure on the podcast info that we share all ways to connect with you and the team, and how people can get involved further. That pretty much brings us to the end of the episode, if I'm honest with you. And I want to thank you so much, Yamilee, today for joining us, for sharing your incredible journey, your own personal insights as to how you kind of had an early career in STEM, and obviously now the organisation STEM from Dance that you've created. Your dedication to empowering girls and women in STEM is truly commendable. And, I thank you from the Women in Tech community, from Elevate. And, I love to see what the next 10 years has on the cards for you and the team, and seeing you achieve that 1 million girls by 2032. So before we completely finish and finish the episode, is there anything else that you would like to add? Anything else that you'd like to say before we finish up?
Well, thank you again for having me, and I hope that listeners walk away really feeling excited and optimistic about the change that we could make, that we don't have to remain with this 5% figure, but that we can change it, and we can change it in our lifetime. So, but yes, thank you again for having me.
Perfect. I think that's so true. Change it in our lifetime. That would be amazing to see. Well, thank you very much. And to all of our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Elevate Women in Tech. Remember, by embracing the power of collaboration and inclusion, we can celebrate a more diverse and innovative tech world. Don't forget to subscribe for more insightful conversations.